with José Hendo, who finished the show tonight with show-stopping material. And I'm really excited to speak with you just more about your philosophy on fashion. And I'd like to start with the 3 R's.
Right. The R3 campaign is something that I have always lived by, worked with, and it's the cornerstone of my sustainable business. So what I really wanted to do was to raise an awareness about our impact on the environment as a fashion industry, but also the fact that the people who are buying the clothes also have a role to play. So by bringing the two sides together, the whole ethos is hinged around the reduce, reuse, recycle, which is the R to the power 3, and also the fact that the history of the garment is just as important as the future of the garment. So that was a very important thing for me to put across right from the get-go.
And you're not really into fast fashion.
No.
So I wanted to know that from a designer's perspective, you don't believe in being on trend, because I'm never on trend, right?
No, not at all. My whole battle with fashion is that I love fashion, but I go against the throwaway culture. Obsolescent fashion is not something that I subscribe to or want. So this whole idea, starting the R3 campaign, was to really, in a way, kind of say, please think about what you're doing. This fast fashion thing is not the way to go. Yes.
And then we definitely saw an influence of Japanese culture in your designs, and I just wondered, where did that come from?
Well, the Japanese design is, I have always been fascinated by the way people, different ethnicities, dress up in their traditional clothes. So the Japanese thing has always been the power in a subtle way. There's a lot of volume, there's a lot of room to breathe, and very, very not pushed so much in terms of what is happening in the fashion industry at that moment. So for me, it was going away from any trend, and that kind of allowed me to experiment, and it just, the volume there is just so good to work with. You can go up a size, go down a size, and still be able to wear it. And I can actually slash things or put things back, and it still looks all right. So for me, it just was a no-brainer. So mixing that with my African culture is just the perfect thing to do, and be able to push both of them forward. And obviously, where people, this whole collection was about, is called Contact. So it's about the way we live with our environment, the people around us together. So it's that link. That's why everything is twisted and turned. Yes.
And then in terms of ethical, like, I found the panel discussion really interesting because it just opened your eyes to, it wasn't just about the factory, it was about the entire process. And I think that nowadays it's sort of on trend also to care about these things, but it's always been something for you. And then I just wondered, how did you always be so conscious about the fabric, the people behind it, and ensuring that your message was sent across through your fashion?
Well, growing up in Africa as a child, nothing went to waste. Everything was kind of reused in one way or the other. So we're living sustainably, but we didn't know that.
So we're just catching up to what everybody's been doing for years.
They have to do that. I mean, they recycle everything to a fault, but they don't even know what they're doing. And so I was the third child in line, so I wore hand-me-downs. My two sisters wore the clothes, and then they came down to me. And I switched them up a little bit to make them mine, give my own twist on it, and then went down to the sisters below me as well. So it was really always that consciousness about that. But then obviously, having been in the fashion industry, I love fashion. I started fashion from an art background, so I'm an artist. So for me, the look is so important, that silhouette, that drama is so important, but then obviously they've got to be wearable. So apart from being wearable art, you've got to think about the functionality of the garment, so that is also important to me. But it's always been there, and being able to share this now is so important, and having to rediscover my passion within the fashion industry and stay true to myself was so important. So I went back to university for that. And I came up with a sustainable angle of things, so this is here we are.
And for someone like myself who wants to stay true, believes in what you're doing, and wants to sort of adopt that recycle and reuse, how do we do that at home?
Well, the story to the person who's buying the garment is just think about what you're buying. Even though you buy a 50-pence t-shirt, what you do with it after you've done with it is so important.
Right.
You recycle it, you use it cleaning around the house.
Right.
Whatever you do, don't put it in the dustbin because there's no more, we don't have any more space in landfill. There's not enough space left in landfill. So when we think about having finished with a garment, then just be thoughtful what you do with it. Hopefully when you wear my garments, you want to keep them forever.
We can't all have them, but feel free to lay them on me and I'll make sure that they will be worn forever.
Well, here's the thing. Within the way I work, I have a diffused line.
Okay.
And I have every reason to do it that way because I recycle, I upcycle, I use end of line, I use rejects, and I recreate and make something that most people will afford.
Right.
Even I can afford.
Also, there's hope for me yet.
Yes, absolutely. But I know you can afford expensive things. Just look at how you're dressed today. I know that.
Oh gosh, it's the recycling in me, Josie. It's the recycling.
It works.
Thank you. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Welcome.
And it was lovely. It was a true pleasure to see your pieces and the movement on the runway.
Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.